have one fact tuning into today's video. We're going to see if we can find some colder weather today. I think we are looking at a bit of a pattern change, perhaps around the middle of November. Until then, we've got very unsettled, mild, well, not particularly mild, it is going to be cold, it has been for October, but sort of near normal average type temperatures, and really unsettled conditions as well, with lots more heavy rain. But around the middle of November, I think we could start to see the Atlantic trade being broken, and I'll show you some of the longer range charts in a moment. Now, before I go on, I just want to talk about the advertising. There's video ads on my page at GazWebBiz.com. If you hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting GazWebBiz.com. Thanks very much for doing that. So we'll start off with the Central England temperature from Hadley for 2013, turning into a very strange year, this one. The first half of the year really cold up to June, with all months up to June coming in with negative anomalies. So January was 0.3 degrees below average, February 0.6, ferociously cold March, 3 degrees below average, the coldest since Victorian times, April 0.4 below average, May 0.8 below average, and June 0.6 below average. So a very cold first half of the year. In complete contrast, the second half of the year has been much warmer. So July comes out 2.3 degrees above average, August 1.1 degree above average, September was only 0.1 of a degree above average, so around average for September. But then October's been another really warm month. Current anomaly stands at 2.2. The actual Central England temperature is 13.1, which is only 0.2 of a degree below the all-time record set in 2001. And believe it or not, this period from July to October has now overturn the cold first half of the year, so we could potentially still come out above average for 2013. But in any case, we have really overturned the cold first half of the year, so really quite an extraordinary sort of year this is turning into. Very unusual to see such a split between the first half and the second half of the year. So we had a look at the JMA, Japanese longer range model, on Friday. Just want to recap what it was showing because it's quite interesting. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. This first period was, or is for the period that we're in now. There's the British Isles are upside down, but it's very clear what's going on there, and the most deep blue colours indicating a big trough of low pressure. Of course, that's right, it's a very unsettled spell that we're currently in. It's taking us up to around the 1st of November. Now, the second weekly period, which takes us up to the 8th of November, so through the first week of November, still shows below average heights around the British Isles, although not to quite the same extent, but we're still under a trough of low pressure there across the country. We've got the blue colours there, so still unsettled, perhaps not quite as bad as the final week of October, probably not the deep storms, but certainly very unsettled conditions. But then look what it does for the next 2 weeks, which takes us up to the middle of November. This is taking us from the week from the 8th of November to around the 23rd of November, and then it's a complete change around. It builds that yellow area, which is above average heights, to the east and the northeast of the country. That's an area of high pressure sitting over Scandinavia. That would break us out of the unsettled weather and will start to bring much colder air in, or certainly colder air in from the east. Perhaps not much colder air because the continent probably won't be that cold, but it is cooling down rapidly on the continent, so an easterly wind in the middle of November would be pretty chilly to say the least, and would certainly be giving us the risk of some overnight frost. So have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre. These again are 500 millibar heights, but these are broken down into 10-day periods. This just updated yesterday, that JMA model that we was looking at a moment ago, updated on Friday, but this is the very latest run, updated yesterday from the Beijing Climate Centre. And again, very interesting here, because for the first 10-day period, which takes up to the 4th of November, yeah, it's very much seeing the same idea, which is the blue colours around British Isles, below average heights, a very strong jet stream roaring across the Atlantic, very unsettled indeed, and with westerly winds not particularly cold. But as we go through to the next 10-day period, which takes us from the 5th of November to the 14th of November, Well, then we're starting to show signs of breaking out of the very unsettled conditions. We've still got below average heights in the Atlantic, up to the north and the northwest of the country. Still got a pretty strong jet stream as well, but jet stream is beginning to start to go north. We've got high pressure beginning to build down to the southwest of the country, and also notice this large area of above average heights sitting to the east and the northeast. That's the area of high pressure beginning to extend out of central Russia in towards Scandinavia. So that's not all that far away from what the JMA was just showing. But let's see what it shows for the next 10-day period, which takes us from the 15th to the 24th of November. Then we're very much under the influence of that area of high pressure sitting to the east and the northeast of the country. It's ridging in across the country. So we're broken out of the unsettled conditions. The low pressure is being blocked and is stalling out off the east coast of America into the mid-Atlantic, and of course with high pressure over Scandinavia ridging into the country, you would be expecting the airflow to be coming from an easterly direction, so it would be bringing colder air in off the continent, probably low-level continental cold air, perhaps not that cold in the upper atmosphere yet, but certainly it would be a lot colder compared to what we've had through October. It would certainly be colder compared to the first week of November, and at the very least we'd be getting some pretty sharp overnight frost through that period from the 15th to the 24th of November. And it is in line, what I'm trying to get across with this, it is in line with what the JMA was showing when it updated on Friday. Here's the longer range CFS model. This is taking us, it's a city forecast for Birmingham. It's taking us through to the 11th of December, actually, but the period we're particularly interested in is November. Now, this is November the 1st just here, and temperatures are going to be holding up quite well through the first week of November. That's 14 Celsius there in Birmingham. That's pretty mild air for November. A little bit up and down, perhaps, and then as we get through to around the 7th or 8th of November, we perhaps get a bit of a drop then. We do turn it a bit colder. Then temperatures somewhere around the 10th of November, and it stays quite mild then to around, say, the 15th or the 16th. But then, very interesting again, it's seeing quite a significant drop from around the 16th or 17th of November onwards, and then the rest of November is staying really quite cold indeed. There's no sign of getting back to those monthly. In early December it does get a little bit milder for a day or two, but then back to cold conditions again as we go through into the end of the first week of December and beyond that. Now this is 4 Celsius just here. That's pretty cold air, especially for November. Draw a line there, and really from around the 16th or 17th of November onwards, the maximum temperatures are not getting above 4 or 5 degrees. You can see that quite clearly there through that period just there where I've got that line. So that's pretty cold air for the second half of November, and frosty periods. This is the 0 Celsius temperature. Just frosty periods are certainly very likely as we go around, say, the 17th, 18th of November onwards. There's certainly going to be potential for a lot of frost in that period, going to the end of November and into the second half, into the first few days of December. Now, of course, this is in line again with the JMA model, and it's also in line with the Beijing Climate Centre model. So I think there is growing evidence here that although we're starting off in December quite mild, not as mild as it's been through October, I think November is going to cool off from around the middle of the month. We're going to see quite a big drop in the temperature occurring from the middle of the month. I think it will get a lot colder as we go from around the 15th, 16th onwards. We may just be starting to see the first signs of this even within the generic GFS model. This runs out to 384 hours. It's a long way away, and you can't take it seriously, but it's showing some quite interesting patterns fairly regularly. So this is the 8th of November, really continuation of the pattern we've got at the moment, with a very flat Atlantic flow, high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, bringing these areas of low pressure in off the Atlantic. But notice what it does as you get through to around the 9th and the 10th of November. It starts to stall that trough of low pressure over the top of the country. Heights beginning to rise This is actually showing it rising more to the north around Greenland as opposed to the northeast that we're seeing on the seasonal models. But it's just the idea about we're beginning to break that Atlantic train of the low pressures coming across the Atlantic. As we move through to around the 12th, we start to push that low pressure through to the east. We begin to get ridging in the Atlantic. So that by the time you get through to the 14th, middle of the month, and this is around the time that the longer range models are beginning to show the change to colder and more block conditions, well, the low pressure is being pushed off into Central Europe, and we are getting this ridge building up in the Atlantic. If this ridge was to start to hook up to some blocking up to the north and the northeast, then we could probably start to break out of this Atlantic train of low pressure. So just maybe the first hints with the GFS model, but it's beginning to pick up on this change through the middle of November, through the second week into the third week of November. It's a long way off. It's all quite up in the air, if you pardon the pun. But I think that's the period we've got to be looking at to start to break out of this unsettled weather and begin to get some colder weather. And very often when you do get these very mild Octobers, you tend to get a bit of a switch around as you get into November. And I think that's what we're going to be looking at this month. So middle of November, that's my tip for it to turn a lot colder, hard frost beginning to come along. And maybe even, if it gets cold enough, some wintry showers towards the end of the month as well. So all very interesting. If you enjoy the mild weather, then you've got a few more weeks of it yet, or certainly another week to 10 days or so. Then we could start to look at colder conditions. That's it for now. It's a 5-day forecast tomorrow. Come back to that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.